Chemtech Urgot is a beginner-friendly comp as it's very easy to play, but also very powerful if played correctly. In this video, I'll be going over the build, what items you make, how to play the early, mid, and late game, then I will go into some in-depth positioning examples. The build is not very flexible, but there are some adjustments you can make if you get specific augments. Here are the core units for the comp. We have Urgot as the main carry, Victor to shred armor, and he is also a Chemtech. Dr. Mundo and Zack are tanky units that are also Chemtech. Lysandra is a Chemtech and also provides great utility with their AD shred as well as CC. A standard level 8 comp from there looks like this. Here we add him Tahm Kench for 4 Bruiser, Vi for 4 Bruiser and Sister, and Jinx for 2 Twin Shot. The bad part about this comp is that it runs 3 legendaries, and they can be hard to hit at level 8, so a cheaper level 8 board that is also strong is this. Here we add in Janna, Graves, and Taric, and run Warwick over Victor. Their frontline is a bit weaker here, but we have great utility with Graves and Janna. Another variation is this. Here we add in Taric, Janna, and Orianna to get 3 enchanters in. Our frontline is a bit weaker, but we have more MR and healing from them, so it balances out in total. I will go more in depth on which of these variations you want to run in the different situations in the late game part of the video. Urgot is our main carry, so we prioritized making items for him first. He has one core item, and that is Hurricane. Since Urgot's base stats are a little low, he can get stuck on tanks at times. Therefore, being able to attack multiple units is fantastic for him. The second item wants to be Last Whisper. This is to reduce the armor of enemy units. This will ensure he's able to get through tanks like bodyguards. In addition, Urgot doesn't have backline access, so if we can't kill the frontline, we will be taking a lot of damage every time we lose. The third item wants to be IE, Deathblade, GS, Hodge, or BT. IE is great when paired with Last Whisper, as all your auto attacks crit, and the bolts from Hurricane will also crit. Deathblade is great to give Urgot more base stats to deal more damage. Giant Slayer is great to counter units with high HP. Hodge and BT are needed in some lobbies where there is a lot of backline access and AoE damage, but since Urgot heals a decent amount from Chemtech, a healing item is not core for us. After we've itemized Urgot, we want to throw tank items on Dr. Mundo. These are items like Bramble, Declaw, Titans, Warmogs, and Redemption. Other great items for this comp are Morello on Lysandra. This is great as she has a large radius with her spell. Sojin on both Lysandra and Victor is also great to get them to cast quicker. If you find Jinx, you can put items on her as well. The best ones for her are Rageblade, Hodge, IE, GS, GA, Hurricane, and BT. Since we won't always hit Jinx, you want to make items for her once you find her, but most of the time, you will just take items off of future carousels to put on her. If you get a spatula, you can either make Chemtech Spat or Mutant Spat. Chemtech Spat is great on Tahm Kench and Jinx as both of them enjoy the extra tankiness and healing. Mutant Spat can be okay depending on the synergy it provides. In that case, you can Chemtech Spat the Urgot or another tank and play Kog'Maw to give you 3 mutants with Dr. Mundo. The best augments for this comp are any Chemtech augment, all of them are great, Bruiser Heart, Emblem or Soul, Sharpshooter, Item Grab, Celestial Blessing, Thrill of the Hunt, Shrug It Off, Knife's Edge, High-End Shopping, as well as Wise Spending. The carousel priority for this comp is Glove, Bow, Belt, and Chain. Since this comp revolves mostly around 3 and 4 cost units, we can play any opener we want to, and then just transition into Urgot later. But the best opener for this comp by far is Chemtech with Warwick as the item carrier. Some other great openers that also work will be any comp that uses Bruiser frontline, and some of those are Trundle with either 2 or 4 Bruisers, Quinn with Bruiser frontline instead of Bodyguard frontline, or Kog'Maw with Snipers. Once we have found our comp, we need to make items, and as a general rule, we want to make an item if we have 4 or more components. Some good items to build early game that transition well into Urgot late game are Hurricane, IE, Bramble, Declaw, Hodge, Morello, Redemption, Warmogs, and Sunfire Cape. Last Whisper is not super flexible as a decent amount of the AD carries don't use it, but you can slam it in some cases. The early game strategy will depend a lot on how good your opener is. In some games you play for a loss streak, and in some games you play for a win streak. If you want to learn more about how to play the early game, check out my guide where I go in depth on that subject. On stage 3-1 after Krugs, you should have more direction towards the comp. The general requirements to play Urgot is to have at least 1 component for Hurricane and 1 component for Last Whisper. We also prefer a Bruiser frontline for our current board, as it is a lot easier to transition as they can still be used on our late game comp. During the mid game, you always hold Urgot if you're not playing him, and you want to hold the other units as well if you don't lose eco for holding them. If you're weak in the mid game, typically around 70 to 60 HP and loss streaking, One option is to roll at level 6 to stabilize on stage 3 too. I personally don't like that too much with this comp, as we would much rather roll at level 7 instead. This comp is not heavily reliant on legendaries, so we can stabilize quite well at level 7. We do this by loss streaking until turn 3-5. If we have enough gold to level to 7 and still have 30 plus gold in the bank, then we can roll down here as well. If not, we can wait until stage 4-1 and then roll there instead. When rolling down at stage 3-5, you're looking to stabilize off of Urgot 1-star with the Bruiser frontline. What you end up with will be a little different every game, but it wants to look something like this. This strategy is a little hard to pull off, so if you are a newer player, don't beat yourself up if you don't pull it off properly the first couple of times you try to stabilize this way. During the mid game, it's also important to scout. This is so we can see how many other people are playing Urgot. This comp can support 2 to 3 players at max, so if you see more than that going for it, consider pivoting to another comp like Jhin, Shaco, or Yone. At the Wolves round, you want to be level 7, and from here you have 2 different options. You can either roll at level 7, or you can go for a fast 8. Since this comp is not heavily reliant on legendaries, rolling at level 7 is fine, but don't get me wrong, we always want to fast 8 when possible, as Victor, Tahm Kench, and Jinx are great units to add into our team. The games where you roll at 7 are when you are 70 HP or lower, you're loss streaking, or if a lot of other people are rolling down here as well. When rolling down at level 7 on stage 4-1, it is very similar to rolling down on 3-5. You want to stabilize with a board that looks something like this. The goal from there is to go level 8 on 5-1 and then roll for the rest on your comp there. So try not to roll below 10 to 20 gold, as we need the money to go level 8 later in the game. If you find yourself in a spot to fast 8, the goal is to level to 8 on 4-5 and roll there. Before you roll at level 8, it is very important to know which units you're looking for. This is where all the previous scouting we have done comes in handy. With the information on what the rest of the lobby is playing, we can more easily tech in synergies and champions that benefits us the most against the current lobby. But since this comp is not very flexible, there's little we can do here besides going for the Enchanter version if there is a lot of AP, or if we don't need as much frontline. Keep in mind though that the Augments can change your comp a little. Going for 7 Chemtech is never worth it though, unless you have +2 Chemtech from either Hearts, Souls, or Emblems. This is because the fights usually don't last that long, and therefore you get little value from the extra time. Going for 6 Bruisers can also be great if the lobby doesn't have Giant Slayer, and you have at least +1 Bruisers from either the Heart, Emblem, or Soul. Once you have hit your board at level 8, you have 2 different options from there. The first one is to roll for Urgot 3-star. This is definitely the 1st or 8th kind of play, as it is very risky. Therefore I only do this if I have 6 or more, I'm uncontested, and I also have enough gold and HP to do a second large rolldown later. The second option is to go level 9. This will require you to be relatively healthy, typically 40 HP or more, and it also requires you to have 2-starred all of your non-legendary units. But the more HP and gold you have, the less 2-stars you generally need, as you will be able to make it to level 9 sooner and also with more gold. If you are high rolling and you're able to go level 9 with a lot of gold, the most capped version of this comp looks like this. It is very expensive to pull off, so you will only be able to do this in a couple of your games. First, I will go over general positioning with this comp, then I will go over some in-depth positioning examples. General positioning looks like this. Here we have Urgot in the cubby, so he doesn't waste time walking around the map. Zac wants to be positioned wherever he can grab enemy carries. Tahm Kench wants to be positioned in front of the primary enemy tanks so that he can eat them and take him out of the fight. Lysandra wants to be positioned to ult targets that have high AD to shred their attack damage. Jinx and Victor are in the backline to stay safe. Against the first guy, the big threat is Kai'Sa and Malzahar. We have Victor and Jinx on the back to stay safe and to target Tahm Kench. Urgot is frontline to not get pulled in by the enemy Zac. Our Zac is positioned to pull in the enemy Malzahar. Since Kai'Sa will ult before Zac, she will jump away before being pulled in by Zac. Against the second guy, the big threat is Jhin and Orianna. Tahm Kench is eating the Braum. Vi is positioned to ult the entire frontline. Zac is positioned to pull in Jhin. Our backline is spread out to make sure that Orianna ults the frontline and doesn't stun any of our backline units. Against the third guy, the big threat is Heimerdinger. Tahm Kench is positioned to stun the Poppy so that she can sustain through the shield. Both Urgot and Jinx are focusing down the Poppy to get through the frontline as efficiently as possible. Zac is positioned to pull in the Heimerdinger and CC him. Dr. Munda is right side to deal with Tristana and then to go to the backline after. Thank you so much for watching. If you learned something, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Comment down below what video you want me to make next, and if you want to get better at TFT, join the Discord. We got over 4,000 other players there who are hungry to climb. And if you want to get coached by me, the information is over on the Discord server as well. So take care and see you in the next video.